In 1985, I went to the National Boy Scout Jamboree in Virginia, and it was awesome. Hi, how are you? So growing up, I was in the Cub Scouts for a while, and then I was in the Boy Scouts. And we had a troop in my town, and two of us from our troop got together with a whole bunch of other people from other troops in the Portland area in 1985 because there was an opportunity to go to the National Jamboree that happens every 4 years. And this was the second trip that I took on an airplane. The first trip I took with my family to Phoenix to check it out and have a nice vacation for fun. And so this was the second time I had been on an airplane. So it was a big deal for me. And it was the first time I had ever traveled to the East Coast and been on a big adventure without my family. So it was a big deal for me. And so, especially when I really didn't know anybody. I mean, we hung out for a couple of months before we went and got to know each other at some meetings. And then we packed all of our stuff in these big pink duffel bags and backpacks and met at the airport. We got out of a plane and we flew to Washington, D.C. And before we went to the Jamboree, we stayed at a motel in Washington, D.C., and we got to see all of the sights that are really cool in Washington, D.C. We went to George Washington's house and saw his grave. We went to President Kennedy's eternal flame. The tomb of the unknown soldier we saw. We went to Annapolis and Jamestown and Williamsburg. And we went up into the Washington Monument, where I took all these cool pictures of the White House and the Capitol and all the surrounding buildings. And then we went to the Smithsonian Institute Museum, where we saw the Wright brothers airplane that flew at Kitty Hawk, and Lindbergh's Spirit of St. Louis plane, and the NASA moon spaceship thing, and Dorothy's red slippers from The Wizard of Oz, and a whole bunch of other cool stuff. And then we saw the theater where President Lincoln was assassinated. That was an amazing experience. And we saw the Capitol building, and I think we toured inside the Capitol building also. And we got to see lots of other important stuff that I didn't fully understand at the time what I was looking at. And I wish my camera had been a lot better. This was the best I was able to take pictures with my camera. So, I mean, it was amazing to see all these really cool sights. And then after that, we got on this bus and we went to the Jamboree. And when we got there, it was at Fort A.P. Hill. And I guess that was the site of the Jamboree that has been for years. I think they do it at a new site now. But it was just like fields and fields of open land where you could have campsites. And so we set up our campsite and we slept in these big tents that were silver and looked like space pods. But they were really great because they kept us dry most of the time. And I'll tell you about that later. So so this was our campsite and we stayed there. And then we went to the opening ceremonies. And to get to the opening ceremonies, we had to hike about 3 miles to get to a big field for the opening ceremony. And and when we got there, we saw just how many scouts there were from all over the nation and 27 countries. And I guess there were about 32,000 Boy Scouts at this Jamboree, plus staff and military assistants. So the population total was probably around 70,000 people at this Jamboree. So for that 1 week, we were the 7th largest city in Virginia, which is kind of cool. So anyway, at the opening ceremonies, they had a bunch of people giving speeches and some people sang, and then the Beach Boys came out and performed a concert for us. And they sang Good Vibrations and Surfin' USA and all their hits. And then there was a big fireworks show. And then after that, it was pretty late, so we all hiked 3 miles back to our campsite. And then we had the greatest time for a week just doing all kinds of cool activities. There was aquatics and windsurfing and air rifles and motocross and knot tying and bridge building with rope. And there was exhibitions. There was NASA had an exhibition there with cool, space stuff. And there was frontier games with axe throwing, where we threw an axe at a big log, to improve our axe throwing skills. And that was the thing about the Boy Scouts that was really cool, is that whether you went to the National Jamboree or you were camping with your troop or you went to the regional camping during the summer camps every summer. Camp Merriweather was fantastic at the beach, and Camp Baldwin. And because you would do activities that you would normally never do. I mean, rocket launching, canoeing, archery, rappelling, survival training, water balloon catapulting. You could do that. There was also this falcon that was there. And he was really cool. I don't remember what the falcon's name was, though. But anyway, I just had an amazing time at this jamboree. And besides all the activities, it was really cool that we got to meet people from all over the nation and all over the world. I mean, we met people from Arkansas and California and New York and Montana and 27 other countries. It was just amazing. And what we did is we traded pins with them. We had all these patches and pins, and we traded them with other people. And everybody was like collecting these pins. And everybody wanted the patch from Malibu. That was the big one because it had all these cool colors. But I wasn't able to get that one. I wasn't able to find it. So, but that's how we would meet people. Say, hey, where are you from? We're trading patches. Do you have this patch? And so we just meet people and hang out, and it was just really cool. And then for each troop, for each of their campsites, everyone built a gateway to their campsite. And this is what ours looked like. And there were really cool gateways for each troop that was there. And some of them put a lot of work into their gateway. And our Portland troop was a picture of Mount Hood, which is right near Portland. And for most of the week, the weather was amazing. It was hot and sunny, except for one particular day where we had a hurricane. Hurricane Bob. And you could see Hurricane Bob forming in the clouds, and then it just rained like I'd never seen rain. And some scouts were smart, and they dug trenches around their tents so the water wouldn't get in. But there was so much water that it was almost pointless because the water just flooded under everyone's tent and in everyone's tent and through the campsites. And I was really glad that we had those silver domes over our tents. But even that didn't really keep all the water out because it was so massive. And we had winds up to 50 miles an hour. And the winds were blowing down tents. And so all this wind and rain, I mean, it was a hurricane, man. But the fun part is, we were like, I don't know, I was 14, so let's go play in the hurricane. So we were out there playing Frisbee in the middle of a hurricane. In the 50-mile-an-hour winds, just drenched with water and mud everywhere. Oh man, it was just the best. While stuff is blowing down around us. And afterwards, oh my God, the cleanup. Everybody had to dig these trenches so the water, the excess water, would have to flow out of their campsites. And man, it was just wild. But the rest of the week was great. It was just that one day we got slammed, and I know that hurricane made national headlines. Boy Scouts get drenched in hurricane, and anyway. So yeah, but everything was great. You know, we all survived, and the week continued. There were hot air balloons, and the Goodyear blimp flew over, and I think the military flew helicopters over and did rappelling down from helicopters, which was really cool to watch. And then there were more activities that we did, like I said before. And man, we just had so much fun. And then the week went by so fast, and then it was time for the closing ceremonies. And so we made the 3-mile trek again to the main field. And we listened to more speeches, and we held candles. So there was this candle vigil thing that we did. And then Nancy Reagan, because President Reagan was president at the time, and so First Lady Nancy Reagan flew in on a helicopter, and she landed, and she gave a speech about, you know, how great it is that we're all Boy Scouts, and she told us not to do drugs. And I don't think we did any drugs. I don't know anyone who did any drugs at the Jamboree. And then the Oak Ridge Boys performed, and the Oak Ridge Boys were a really famous band at the time. And then there was a big fireworks show again, and then that was the end of the closing ceremonies, and we walked back to our camps, and the next day we broke down our camps, put everything in the buses, and we went back to Washington, D.C., got on a plane, and we flew back to Portland. But It was such an amazing experience, and I was really impressed that the whole Jamboree was organized so well and was run with such efficiency. And especially, you know, with the hurricane. I mean, the military came in and assisted us and got everybody back to normal, and the next day you would have thought nothing happened. You know, our tents were a little soggy. But other than that, I mean, you know, the show went on. It was great. It was organized really well. And I mean, it was just great to meet people that I hadn't met before and hang out with them and meet people from all over the world and to see Washington, D.C. And because I've never seen it since. I would love to go back and take a look at it. And, you know, it was just great to broaden my perspective, and I came back with a lot more confidence and awareness, and probably changed in ways that I probably didn't even understand consciously. And that's what happens when we go on big trips and do something new and different. You know, our perspectives broaden and we see things differently when we come back, and we don't probably fully understand the change that we went through by going on a trip or doing a new experience, especially when you're cooking your food on a campfire for a week and surviving a hurricane. I think hurricane frisbee should be an Olympic sport. Anyway, I don't know what the scouting experience is like now. I hope it's really great. I hope the jamborees are still going, and I hope they're really great experiences, and I hope they're as well organized as the one I went to was. And I would love to hear your thoughts on this, because I really enjoyed sharing this with you. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I will be back next week with another video where I ramble about more stuff. Anyway, I really enjoy talking about this stuff with you, and I hope you enjoy it too. And thanks for watching this video, and I will see you next week. Have a great week. Have you ever been in a hurricane? Did you play frisbee? Will you next time?